So Tyler, today we're going to talk about the 4 things every person needs to know before buying a franchise. And we believe those 4 things are: number 1, who's going to run it?
Yep.
Number 2, how much time do I have until I need to make money? Number 3, how do I get customers? And number 4, what are the best people in that franchise going to be successful? Right. So I'm going to start with number 1. It's who's going to run it. This is such an interesting topic that people need to really kind of work through a process to determine, are you going to run it? Is a spouse or a family member going to run it? Is a partner going to run it, or is an employee going to run it, right? And there's advantages and disadvantages of all of them. But you think about it, if it's going to be you, then you need to understand what your skill sets are, how much you can make or how much you're not going to make for a period of time. Are you leaving a job in order to do that? If it's going to be a spouse or a family member, what's that relationship going to look like? What's the skill set of those people? If it's going to be a partner, how do you get into that partnership? What's the partner structure? And of course, if you're going to hire somebody, how do you make sure that there's trust and accountability there? Just for me, really quick, the way that I run my franchises, and I fell into this years ago when I first started, was I have partners or employees that I have done it with. And for instance, right now, I am an Orange Theory franchisee, I'm a Soccer Stars franchisee, and I am not an expert at any of those businesses.
Yep.
But what I would say I'm probably an expert at is a system set up in order to manage the people that are running it every day, to be sure we are aligned and that goals are being hit. And I have lots of videos, and we'll continue to shoot lots of videos around the structure that I use. But that's something that's important to me. If I walked into an Orange Theory today, they wouldn't know who I am, but I'm very plugged into that business. If you could talk a little bit about how much time do I have until I need to make money?
Yeah. I mean, you skimmed over that though. Like, I actually want to stop on that a little bit because you're really good at it. Like, you find those people to run these businesses. It's incredible. Like, talk more about what you look for in those people. Like, how do you identify, outside of a family, what other things are important to you?
Yeah, it's 4 things, right? And we call it our stick person. I need somebody who has the skills. And the only way that I'm going to know that is if I've previously worked with them, right? So it's usually people that I previously worked with and I just stay in touch with. Number 2, I need to trust them, right? And when we all know how we build trust. Number 3 is they have to be properly incentivized. So many people get that wrong. It goes back to pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. If I'm making money out of a franchise that I have to put very little work into, why would I want to squeeze somebody else, right? So that's such an important part of understanding what the desires of that person is and making sure that they feel fulfilled. And then C is capacity. Is the person that's running it, do they have the capacity that it's going to be required in order to make that business successful?
That's great, man. So time commitment to a franchise. So this is something that's very easy for people to not understand, right? They sit there and they're like, okay, I got a 9 to 5. I've got a current business. I got time. I got time. I'll figure it out. Not even close. You have to be really understanding first the startup phase. You have to understand the phases of a business, right? The first 3 months, it's going to be a grind. And even if you're completely absentee, you need to be plugged in. So you need to go to your schedule. You need to figure out, I'm going to spend 2 hours here, 3 hours here. Be open and honest with your family. Hey, it's going to be three months. I'm going to be really hustling on this thing, or maybe 6 months or 9 months, whatever it looks like. You have to be honest with yourself and look at, you have to be clear with your operator too. If you're not operating, what's your involvement going to be? Can they call you during the day? Can they do this? Can they do that? So you have to be very clear. So I think expectations and understanding your true commitment is very, very important.
I want to touch on a few things you said there because they're so important. You started by saying 3 months, and then you said maybe it's 6, maybe it's 9. And I'm glad you did that because the reality is every franchise is different. Some of them are going to cash flow very quickly, and some of them are going to require significant time. Same is true of how much money you're going to make. Same is true of the skill sets that it takes in order to be successful. The only way to answer those questions is to go through a proper validation process. You need to speak to the other franchisees and say, how long was it that until you made money? How much time did you have to put in? What are the skills of the people that are successful for you? And so that's such an important part, because then once you understand the framework of success in that franchise, the second thing you said was set expectations. So whomever the people are that are running this business with you, you set the clear expectations, and back to your family, to your spouse potentially, to your kids potentially. What are we sacrificing in our personal life in order to get past this period that I've heard other people say it takes in order to make money and to put less time in?
And worst case scenario, people don't like to talk about this. What's worst financial scenario? What's worst case time commitment scenario? Think about if your operator leaves, what's going to happen? What's your time commitment going to be? You have to look at worst case scenario.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go on to number 3, and it's how do I get customers? I think this is something that's overlooked. Oh, the franchisor is going to do it for me, no big deal. I think you need to have a clear understanding of why are people going to open your door?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, why are they going to open the door? How do you get customers, like, realistically? Like, not just, I'm going to turn on ads. What if the ads don't work? Are you going to create relationships in the area? Almost every business works off of relationships. You got to be able to go out and get relationships. Who's going to get them? How are they going to be managed? There's so much that goes into it. So when you do validation with existing franchisees, be very specific and when you ask questions. How much do you spend every single month? How many customers does that get you? Understand your customer acquisition costs. And then when you talk to the Zors, be very clear on your questions as well. Like, you're going to do this. What's this going to yield me? What happens if it doesn't work? How often do I talk to the marketing team that's going to drive those leads? All very, very important.
Yep. And be realistic about how much power that brand has. If you buy a Jimmy John's, you have a pretty good understanding that people know what Jimmy John's are and they're going to walk in. But if you buy a Toastique, which is a great franchise, we love it, but not as many people know what that is. And so you're going to have to better understand what are they doing to go out and get customers.
100%. Yep.
Okay. And so then the fourth thing is, what are the best franchisees doing? We call this model the masters. It's so important. People are... it's funny, we're probably all some introverts at our core, because so many people are reluctant to reach out to the best. And I get it, because when people reach out to me, I am not always available to give advice on how they could go make money. I saw this quote the other day is, I'm sorry, I'm too busy to work for free right now for you so you can figure out how to make money, right? It's kind of funny. Like, we're all very busy trying to run our own businesses. However, there are ways to do it, especially if you're working with a franchisor that wants to grow. Oftentimes, they will make those franchisees available. So you have to be very prepared going into those calls, because these people don't want to waste time. And oftentimes, you're not going to be the only one on. Their time is limited, so they're going to have this call with several people at once. What do you want to ask? What's particular to you? Is there an opportunity? It doesn't hurt to say, is there an opportunity for me to reach out to you again if I have questions? But do what you need to find out who the best performers are, how you can get a hold of them, what is it that they're operating, even if it's just a conversation with the franchisor or the dev person on what are your best people doing. You need to have a list of those things, model the masters, because those are exactly where you should be thinking about and starting to run your business.
Pick up the phone. It drives me nuts. Pick up the phone, call every franchisee in the system. You want to go after the good ones, obviously understand what they're doing. But on the flip side of that, understand the ones that are not successful, and don't be afraid or scared off because there's non-successful franchisees. Every system has non-successful franchisees, but you got to look at them, figure out why they're not successful. It's likely something they're doing, probably. And just be open, honest, and direct with them and get that information. But then, yes, pick up the phone, just call as many as you can, have those great conversations.
Agreed. Oftentimes pick up the phone will lead to a lot of nobody calling you, but not nobody, that's the wrong way to say it. Many people not calling you back. And I've had clients of mine say, well, nobody's calling me back. That must be a bad sign. No, it's a great sign. Yeah. They're so busy running their business. They got so many people that are interested.
Yeah, true.
They don't prioritize this phone call. So I agree with pick up the phone and call people, but don't be discouraged if a heavy percentage of them don't call you back.
Yeah, 100%.
Great.